Welcome to Lattes and Art, where creativity is always brewing. I'm your host, James William Moore, artist, curator, storyteller, and occasional overcaffeinator. Whether you're sipping an espresso in your studio or listening while you walk the dog, I'm glad you're here. Today, I'm going solo. No guests, just me, my coffee, and some thoughts that have been percolating. Welcome to today's episode, brought to you by J Squared Atelier. Why we make art, a love letter to creativity. This is a personal one. Less interview, more reflection. Less how-to, more why even. And maybe, just maybe, it'll remind you why you create, or inspire you to start. Let's start with a little perspective. We live in a world filled with art. Take a walk through any city, any neighborhood, even the most unassuming one, and you'll find art. A hand-painted sign, a mural on a forgotten wall, a kid's chalk drawing on the sidewalk. Even in digital spaces, memes, photos, emoji-laced texts, all of it is a visual language, tiny bursts of creativity. So if we're surrounded by it, the question isn't why make art, it's how could we not? We're wired for it. From the time we're toddlers, we draw before we write. We dance before we walk straight. We hum before we understand lyrics. We see color before we understand words. Creating is human. It's instinctual, like breathing or dreaming. The only thing that really changes is that somehow, somewhere along the way, we're told we have to be good at it. We're told art is for the talented, the trained, the chosen. But the truth is, art is for everyone, and it always has been. So let's go back, like way back. It's the history of us. Before there were schools or museums, there were cave paintings in Lascaux, petroglyphs in the American Southwest. Humans were drawing, carving, designing long before they had language or even fire to figure it out. Why? Because art was how we made sense of the world, how we told stories, passed on knowledge, shared identity. It wasn't about galleries or markets. It was about survival. Emotional, spiritual, communal survival. Art was ceremony, healing, warning, joy. It wasn't separate from life. It was life. And in many ways, it still is. For me, art has always been about the story. It's about questioning. It's why I make art. I'm drawn to images and objects that make people stop, pause, tilt their head and say, wait, what am I looking at? My work blends camp, kitsch, horror tropes, childhood nostalgia, and a deep curiosity about identity and culture. I love capturing the things we overlook, the things we often dismiss, and asking, why do we dismiss them? There is power in that. There is power in flipping the script and turning the ordinary into the uncanny. The silly into the sacred, the mass-produced into the one-of-a-kind. But underneath it all, I make art because it helps me understand who I am in a world that often tries to define me for me. Art gives me a space to explore, to react, to play. Sometimes, just sometimes, to even heal. You don't have to call yourself an artist to be a creator. We make art for many, many reasons. To tell the truth, to process emotion, to challenge norms, to entertain, to remember, to escape, to connect. Sometimes we make it for ourselves, private, personal, therapeutic. Sometimes we make it for others, hoping it speaks louder than words ever could. Some people create out of joy, others out of pain. Many times, it's a mix of both. And that's the beautiful thing about creativity. It holds space for all of us. There's no right way to make. No correct brushstroke, no perfect color, no definitive answer. Just expression, just process, just the act of doing. Now here's the thing. If making art is so natural, so vital, why do so many people stop? What holds us back? Fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of judgment. Fear that it's too late. Fear that someone else is already doing it better. Let me say this clearly. None of those fears are true. Your art, your voice, your vision is unique, and it matters. It doesn't matter if you're 16 or 76, if you've had formal training or you're self-taught, if your tools are Photoshop or crayons or clay or even sidewalk chalk. What matters is that you do it, that you start. Even if you're rusty, even if it's messy. Okay, especially if it's messy. When we make art, we're not just creating something outside ourselves. We're transforming something from within ourselves. Art teaches us patience, presence, playfulness, perspective. It reminds us we are capable of magic. Because let's be honest, taking blank canvases, blank pages, and silence, and turning it into something new, that's magic. It's also freedom. Freedom to make mistakes, freedom to try again, freedom to tell our story the way we see it. Art is a love story. If no one's told you today, you're allowed to create. You don't need permission. You don't need a gallery. You don't need the latest gear or the perfect idea. You just need a little time, a little space, and the willingness to begin. Thank you for indulging me with my thoughts as they are my love letter to creativity. And maybe, just maybe, it might be yours too. Make art for the joy of it, for the weirdness of it, for the healing, the rebellion, the connection. Make it badly. Make it boldly. Make it now. And that's it for this episode of Lattes and Art, my shameless, starry-eyed love letter to creativity. Whether it's a spark in the middle of the night, the messy beginnings of a new idea, or the quiet joy of making something just for yourself, creativity is always there, waiting patiently. Creativity is that weird best friend who shows up unannounced, makes a mess, and somehow convinces you it was all your idea. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. Whether you're painting, writing, gluing macaroni to cardboard, or just staring at a blank page while drinking questionable amounts of coffee, remember, the magic is in showing up. Thanks for hanging out with me today, Until next time, stay caffeinated, stay curious, and above all, keep making weird, wonderful things. I'm James William Moore, and this has been Lattes and Art, brought to you by J Squared Atelier.